Good afternoon. My name is Yela Natasha Pizzolato, and I wish you a very warm welcome to the episode 5 of The Sustainable After, an interview series brought to you by Loomish, a Swiss investment management firm. In these weekly panel discussions, our goal is to explore the ways in which COVID-19 crisis could actually serve as a catalyst for change in fashion. Each week, we're hosting conversations with entrepreneurs, brands, investors, and opinion leaders that work in and around fashion sustainability. To be up to date with our other interviews in this series, please follow Loomish SA's LinkedIn. So today we're going to take a deep dive on managing sustainability across the supply chain, and I'm very happy with the people we have with us online today. So I'm very pleased to introduce first Anna Maria Rugarli. She's the Sustainability and Responsibility Senior Director EMEA at the VF Corporation. So Anna Maria is actually a very seasoned expert in the arena, and among else, she initiated and launched both Nike's and VF Corporation's sustainability and CSR programs. So it's really great to have you with us, Anna Maria. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Nice to be with you today.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your current role?
Yes, so I have been working at VF with the regional role for the past 9 years to set up the sustainability program for the corporation in collaboration with my colleagues across the world. The work at VF is with the corporate functions and also with our brands. I'm not sure many of our viewers or listeners know VF Corporation. It's an American multinational. We just finished the last fiscal year with over $10 billion in revenues, and we're a house of brands. So not many people know VF, but a lot of people know our brands, such as the North Face, Vans, Timberland. These are the biggest in the portfolio. We also have Aespa, Kipling, Napapiri, etc. So overall, 20 brands all over the world. We operate globally, and we have a supply chain, obviously, that is global as well. So we have a very kind of relevant presence in the industry.
Yeah, it is really wonderful to have you with us, Anna Maria, both for your personal experience, but also for your experience that you're having with all these amazing big international brands. Going on with our introductions, joining us from India, Rajul Jain is the CEO and co-founder of let's say, scale up, but actually a real company, big company already in its own right. It's called Increff, standing for Incredible Efficiency. So Increff is an innovative fulfillment company which uses data to ensure better sell-throughs and merchandise planning. Rajul himself has a very long experience both in operations and supply chain as well as in e-commerce. Welcome, Rajul, to this conversation. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how it fits fashion sustainability?
Yeah, thanks, Jelena. So what we at Increff are doing is we are building tech platforms, technology, which uses a lot of data, a lot of analytics, as well as automating a lot of processes. To make fashion inventory a lot more efficient, and to support the sustainability, which is a big thing for the whole world. Fundamentally what we do is we have two tech platforms. One tech platform focuses on automation of merchandising decisions pre-season and during the season, which ensures that you produce less, you produce right, you have to discount less, etc., etc. Then our other platform, which is Increff Assure, that is all about how to automate warehouse without automation, without mechanical automation, how to achieve extremely high accuracy of inventory, etc., etc., and high speed of fulfillment. But more importantly, how to sort of Uberize inventory. So let's say if you have 1 million piece in warehouse, how can you make sure that every single piece amongst that million pieces are live on all sales channel, are live on your own e-commerce channel, your own m-commerce channel, your marketplaces, your offline stores, omni-channel, etc., etc., simultaneously. Yeah? So even if you have one piece in your warehouse of an SKU, it will be live on, let's say, n number of channels. And thus you solve a lot of problems and which directly impact sustainability as well. Yeah?
That's great, Rajul. We're going to go later on a little bit deeper into how that happens, also the waste reduction and so on. But now I would just like to finalize our round of introductions and to wish a warm welcome to Francisco Pimentel, who's joining us from Portugal in a dual role, effectively, as Francisco is a co-founder of Spring Code, a sustainable fashion marketplace, but he's also managing director of Mo Fashion, that is the largest Portuguese fashion brand. Welcome, Francisco. Could you tell us, like in your multiple roles, how does what you do relate to sustainability?
Hi, Elena. Hi, everyone. So I am one of 3 co-founders of Spring Code. Spring Code is, like you mentioned, sustainability marketplace. So sustainability goes to the core of what we do. We try to connect end consumers to factories, to certified top-notch factories that are already producing to very big and premium or luxury brands. And so we work with the factories, making sure that everything that goes in is actually certified. It's tested against harmful chemicals, and all the production processes is very well conducted. Then we try to use their spare capacity. So we use the free time that they have to produce styles. They're producing their own styles because they have their own designers. So we don't add any more capacity to the system. We're basically taking advantage of the capacity that's already there. Products are kept at the factory's warehouses, so we're not adding extra warehouses or extra travel to those products, and they're shipped directly to the end consumer. They're doing this on very small runs, very small batches, sometimes as low as 30, 50 pieces, which means that we're also trying to save on leftovers and on excess production. And we start this production with their own excess fabrics, so fabrics that remain from productions to other brands. So what we try to do is find a new way to sell fashion, a new channel to connect directly the factories that have improved a lot over the last 15, 20 years in terms of capabilities, to the end consumer that can go directly to the factory, like some of us used to do a few years ago when we went to the factory stores. But we try to bring this to the digital age and make sure that everyone can access it.
It's a very interesting business model, Francisco. So I would like now to go a little bit into the present moment in a way. So obviously most of us are now connecting from our homes, and it is clear that the outbreak of COVID has halted the world economy, and in particular to the fashion industry, it's likely to affect it in an unprecedented way. So Anna Maria, if you could tell us a little bit, how do you see the situation from where you sit from in the fashion industry? So how is it affecting your plans for the year? What are you doing at the moment?
So obviously the situation we're in has been and it still will be for some months disruptive. I can talk about what we did at VF and how we managed the situation in relation to COVID. So on one side, the company had a people-first approach, really making sure that employees were going to be protected throughout the crisis. So, working from home from the very beginning, making sure that, for instance, our colleagues in the retail stores that were closed for all these years have just started reopening now slowly in Europe, for instance, could be at home. Our colleagues in distribution centers would work in shifts to make sure that they would keep the right distances and kept operating the business. So from an internal perspective, there's been this people first approach that really was trying to look after us as employees. On the other side, there was a huge mobilization, I should say, really, from our brands and from the corporation as well, making sure that we would start making some of the goods that were required now, like masks, like protective equipment. So some of our brands started making these items. And also some of our brands and the corporation decided to make some donations to make sure that we would support local communities throughout this very tough time. So overall, VF and the brands donated more than $10 million across the world through a variety of programs and initiatives, partly through the VF Foundation and partly through the brands directly, where there was also consumer involvement. So overall, the situation has been very disruptive, obviously from a business perspective, with stores closed, but the online business kept going. On the other side, I think we saw a lot of opportunities to actually play a role in the society and really make a stand when it comes to supporting local communities, which I think right now it's not only needed but very appreciated by all of us as employees, but also by all of our consumers and a lot of our stakeholders.
Yeah, from how I see it, observing different brands reacting in different ways, it's in a way even the opportunity for brands to walk their talk in a way, and I think that VF is doing such a wonderful job out of it, because it's looking from the outside, it is clear that those values are close to the brand core.
Yes, and I think, you know, in times, in tough times, the true nature and the authenticity of a brand, but also of people, really come out, right? So we were all very pleased to see that us as colleagues, but also our brands, immediately started looking for solutions, or started really thinking about ways to make sure that we would support, again, local communities, consumers, or local organizations, even throughout the emergency. Now, just, you know, one of the most recent examples that I can think of is the North Face, that normally has a project that supports local communities that is called Explore Funds, and it's focusing on making sure that through local NGOs, consumers, kids, anybody can really access the outdoor spaces, which is really what the North Face is about. Now there is a special fund of over $1 million that is out there for local organizations to request it and to kind of get funds to make sure that they can still going on with their activities. So, you know, it's examples like these that really make a difference, I would think.
Yeah. Is it, if I can ask, if it's country specific or it is global?
It's global.
It's global.
Yeah. Which is great, because the North Face is really the biggest brand in the outdoor industry, is really a reference brand for consumers, but also for local organizations when it comes to going outdoors. And the brand felt that this was the right time to do a special edition, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think with a lot of people being closed during the lockdown, it is also that need is being felt, and because that we are based in Switzerland, we are actually quite lucky in that perspective.
Yeah, indeed. I think one of the comments that I've seen the most, you know, throughout social media is being, you know, for people that were locked inside for many months or many weeks, that finally I can go back to nature and I can really enjoy it.
Well, it's really, I mean, I find it very, very inspiring what VF has been doing, and how it has reacted to this crisis. Maybe we could hear a little bit more from Rajul, who is working in a market that is very specific in its volumes, but also in culture-wise. So if you could tell us a little bit more also about what the situation is like in India, and how it's affecting your business.
Okay. So India, so across the world, India has seen one of the most, let's say, severe lockdown. Yeah. There was like lockdown for 1.5 to 2 months, and let's say in many other countries, let's say e-commerce was allowed, but offline retail was not allowed. In India, even e-commerce was not allowed, yeah, and rightly so. Uh, and what that has resulted into, the whole industry is extreme, very badly hit. Probably after obviously travel, etc. Fashion is the worst hit, and mostly because the way the whole fashion industry is structured. Correct. Our working capital flow is very poor. You people hold, the whole ecosystem hold about 6 to 12 months of inventory. Yeah? There's a huge working capital required. It's a capex heavy as well industry. Yeah? And right now the complete cash flow cycle is sort of frozen. Yeah. And thus it's not a great situation to be in for a fashion brand or retailer. I believe quite a few will perish. Yeah. But let's say whenever there is normalcy, a year after or 2 years after, whenever the demand becomes normal, so whosoever is agile will survive. Yeah. Right now, what I see is the fashion brands and retailers, what they immediately want is revenues, sales. So they are all working very hard to ensure that whatever they have starts getting sold, so that they start generating revenue and the cash flow starts. Yeah? But I've also started seeing a lot of people moving from offline to online, or those who were already on online increasing their inventory exposure or online. People have started already talking about reducing variety, focusing more on core, how to reduce the complete supply chain cycle, how to reduce the inventory holding. So those all thoughts have started in people's mind, and they are discussing that. Yeah. As far as we are concerned, we also took a big hit. Our revenues were almost dropped by 70-80% during these 2 months. Yeah. But luckily we had enough capital not only to sustain but to grow, and we run quite a capital efficient company. Yeah. And we were anyways taking world in a futuristic direction. COVID has done nothing but accelerated that. Now, what that has resulting into post, there is now ease down of lockdown in India. Yeah. And what we have seen is probably after a couple of months from now, our revenues will jump, let's say, threefold compared to pre-COVID days. Yeah. So this bad situation is somehow helping us. Also, we were amongst the first company to close down during the COVID. Yeah. We took that decision very, very early. Probably we would be the last one to open as well, because we all can work from home and human health is most important. Having said that, our team was very productive, because the way we have built a culture here, it's a lot more digital collaboration happens, and a lot more digital automation happens within the company as well, or running the company as well. And that played an important role. Most of our team were extremely more productive than they were before COVID. So yeah, fingers crossed, hoping for a great turnaround, and hoping for a bigger, higher, much bigger rebound for us.
Yeah, I think that's what we are all hoping for, and I would say that from what you are saying, I think you're in a very good position, being that many companies, that you are somehow even set up in order to exit this tunnel relatively ready. So it is no mean feat, really. Francisco, what is the situation that you're facing in Portugal in both of your roles? So how has it changed your plans for this year? What are your reasonings of the potential scenarios?
Yeah, no, it changed a lot, nothing that we could foresee. I think it's crisis tend to accelerate underlying trends and already pre-existing changes. So more than actually introduce new things, I think they will speed up the pace at which sustainability for once will gain importance. People will be more concerned about themselves, about their health, about respect for the world. And traceability is another big trend that I think will continue to increase. Even the movement of loungewear into casual clothing due to the informality, even some underwear elements are moving into clothing for the past 2 years, and I think we'll continue to see that. But those are all trends that play well into Sprinkle and the two things that we're doing. Even now we're launching a capsule that we know from the cotton that's produced in Greece to all the components that are going to the product, we know where they came from. And so I think to a company or startup like Sprinkle, of course, this is definitely a big boost. To more fashion, which has a much larger bricks and mortar business with exposure to Portugal, Spain and Italy. So two of those very affected markets, it's a different story. Digital has seen a huge growth, and we've been doing between 3 times to 10 times what we usually do online. But still it's a limited part of the business. And of course, we've struggled from an operational standpoint to serve customers, from a customer service standpoint to make sure that we keep try not to deviate too much from our service levels, but it goes much deeper to the business and how to think the future role of the store. How do we go outside of the 4 walls of the store and closer to the customer, which is what the customer is asking us to? How do we increase agility? Like Rajul mentioned, we're already operating on relatively short 4 to 5 month cycles, but we need to do it even faster to make sure that we have lower working capital. How do we engage with third parties? We're engaging with academia and institutions to develop antiviral clothing to protect against COVID, and with some institutes and laboratories in Portugal testing against COVID-19, some fabrics to make sure that they offer an extra layer of protection. But how do you reinvent the business, especially the role of the store, to make sure that it's still central to what the customer will want in a year or 2 years down the road? I think that's the biggest challenge that we're facing as a retailer.
Yeah, it is as if we are entering also a new phase of omnichannel, because there are so many people that now started got more comfortable with e-commerce during this crisis, and now is really a good time to start rethinking the role of the store and how it plays versus digital.
We have about, from the customers, that we had about 70% new customers online, out of which half have already bought again. So you see that there's actually a trend for people to pick up and stay online over these past 2 months. And it's definitely a challenge how we will structure ourselves to serve a much bigger digital channel, and how to keep the store connected and relevant to the customer. But we have some ideas that we'll be testing in the next few months.
Very interesting developments, Francisco. Anna Maria, like we at Loomish work with many fashion tech companies, but also we get approached by a lot of fashion sustainable brands and emerging brands. And how I see it is that it is relatively easy to start sustainable brands from scratch. And you are able to set up your supply chain. You are able to control everything from the very beginning because you already know it's a problem. But what I see as very difficult is ensuring that big global brands keep getting increasingly sustainable while still on the run maintaining their business as usual. So it really appears as a true challenge. So if you could tell us a little bit more about the VF family of brands, and you have been very active in the domain of sustainability. So could you unpack for us your approach and how you are ensuring this constant and incremental improvement in sustainability across different brands?
Sure. I mean, what you say, it's very true. I think it's still challenging for brands that are recently born to just focus on sustainability from the very beginning. It's a very important choice. Still, it's not that simple, but obviously, you know, if you think about global brands or global brands that have been operating in a different way for a long time. Like if we think about VF, is a company that is 120 years old. So clearly it was set up at very different times in a very different way. So it needed to change and adapt throughout the times that we're living. So sustainability has become a journey properly, and is a journey because when you decide to start looking into how you want to become more sustainable, you need to start looking at your whole business and see what you need to change. And change obviously is the challenging part, first of all, because it's easier to just keep going the way you're used to for such a long time. Now, the way we've done it at VF, as I said in the very beginning, I've been working in this company for 9 years, and that's when we started the sustainability journey. We started looking at how, from a corporate perspective, we would make sure that we would build a baseline of sustainability across the whole corporation that would benefit the brands. The way it works at VF is that our brands have 4 functions that they manage directly, which are products, marketing, sales, and retail operations. All the other functions are managed at VF level. So indirect procurement or supply chain, which is obviously a huge part when it comes to sustainability, where we have the biggest impacts. These are all managed at corporate level, which means that when we create change at corporate level, we directly impact all of our brands. So the way we looked at this was to build a baseline across all of the VF functions that would basically build a baseline for the brands that is the same. Then it's up to the brands to decide how much they want to leverage this baseline and how much they want to go and become sustainable, right? We have some brands that have sustainability at their core, like Timberland is a very well-known brand to be very sustainable. Their products, are built with very sustainable materials. The North Face as well, for instance, it's been looking at sustainability for a long time, again, being, the biggest brand in the outdoor world. So, they leverage sustainability more than others. So that's really up to the brand strategy to decide how much they want to do and how much they want to, promote it through their work, their products, the way they engage their consumers. And from a corporate perspective, year on year, we build the baseline and we raise the bar to make sure that we don't just, deliver on a plan and that's it for the rest of many years. But obviously, again, sustainability is a journey. And the idea of sustainability is that there is a constant evolution. So through a corporate program and strategy that is called Made for Change, we keep raising the bar so that also the brands and their sustainability baseline will keep growing, and then they will be able to keep leveraging this work from their brand perspective.
Yeah, it is. I noticed last year when the Fashion Pact was signed and there were many brands joining, how the VF brands were actually, they had been there already, and they had already been ready and kind of able to start speaking authentically with a sustainability voice. And it was really interesting, like the second part of the last year, as many brands starting even kind of greenwashing and pushing this sustainability message to VF brands. Like I remember like some advertising from North Face, but also Timberland. It felt so much on brands, actually.
Right. Because again, as brands, they've been working on sustainability for a long time, longer than the 9 years I've been at VF. And, in 9 years, though, you do build the foundation of a global program. And, the fact that there is a long-term investment, but also a long-term view of sustainability really makes the difference. Because as you know, this is an area where you cannot really improvise. It takes time to create change within the organization. It takes time to actually assess your environmental impact, your social impact. It takes time to think about your product from a different perspective. So it's a whole process, internal and external, that takes a long time to build and to align on. So, for instance, we have our sustainability strategy is called Made for Change, and it sits on 3 pillars. One is circular economy, which is really the kind of new horizon of environmental sustainability, and looking at how we need and what we need to do to change to become a more circular organization and start thinking about circularity and our products, our services, and the way we operate in a different way. The second pillar is called Scale for Good, and it focuses on our biggest impacts that are raw materials, climate change, and workers in supply chain. So through this pillar and through this work, we really try to, to have a positive impact in the 3 areas where we have the biggest impacts. And the third pillar is called Movement Makers. And this is the pillar through which we want to activate VF's purpose. And the VF purpose is, at VF, we power movements of sustainable and active lifestyles for the benefit, for the betterment of people and the planet. So it has a social and environmental dimension. And through this, also, we want our brands to really bring their purposes to lives, to engage their consumers also in a more meaningful way. And you do this when you have done a lot of the homeworks and a lot of the journey that you needed to do to actually come to a stage in which you can bring this message and you can bring this content and meaning to your consumers and to your stakeholders. So, long explanation to say that you don't improvise yourself when it comes to sustainability. It's a long journey, and it requires vision, and it requires a lot of commitment because of the change you bring to the organization, but to the world and to society as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna Maria, for sharing this with us. Connecting to this topic of impact versus developing a business. So, Raju, over the years, your company has experienced an impressive growth, and you have been backed up by some very important investors, including even Sequoia, among others. So, maybe for the benefit of the startups that are following this conversation, what would you single out as the key element of your success so far? So is it only about the advanced tech platform, or are there other elements that are that make people buy into your story?
So definitely there are other elements, yeah. But if I have to single down one thing, then I will say God, yeah. Because to make a successful startup, there are so many elements, so many variables which have to fall in place, that I don't think so it's humanly possible. You need God's hand to make you successful. Yeah. The tech is the key reason. We have a very, very advanced tech designed specifically for fashion, designed specifically for mostly for e-commerce, and it caters to the new age agile supply chain which is required. Yeah. But now, to build a great tech product, you need few fundamental things. Yeah. And I would say the first and the foremost thing is the team. Yeah, we have been able to build a team, which is highly capable, very passionate, young guys. Our average experience of our team would be, let's say, 2 years or 3 years, yeah, only. But they are very, very highly capable, passionate guys. Yeah, and they are aligned to our values. You have to be aligned to the value system within a company. Many times I feel, or my co-founders, Romil and Anshuman, feel that they are exactly like us when we used to be, about 15, 20 years back. So team, yeah, building a great team is extremely important. Second is the vision. Yeah? For us, it benefited because we came from the industry and we could see where the industry going. So we started building something which is required for next 5 years. We were not building which was required then and now, yeah, and we were not building something which would be required 20 years or 10 years down the line. We were building something which would be required or 5-7 years during this journey of next 5-7 years. So that helped us a lot, yeah, and we never had to pivot. It's very rare that Startup don't have to pivot. Yeah, this is my second journey in startup. Then I think third thing is focus. Yeah, and we were extremely focused on building great product and adding value to the client. Yeah? We were never gunning behind revenues or generating revenue at any cost. We were very sure that if product is great, it's adding huge value to our customers, and customers are happy and satisfied, rest will fall in place. So I would say, yeah, these are the three fundamental elements behind creating a great product, and that great product is behind our success story till now. Hope so it continues. So yeah.
Yeah. So it is tech in combination with leadership effectively that makes the difference. Connected to what Anna Maria was mentioning earlier, about the fact that many brands from the VF family have adjusted to the situation and started producing masks, or started kind of giving to the communities what the communities needed at that point. Francisco, you at Spring Code were doing something similar, so you reacted promptly, and already on your marketplace people can buy certified masks in your assortment. So could you tell us a little bit more of how that came about, what the reactions were, and perhaps how you see it within a larger scope of kind of releasing the lockdowns and people eventually going back to work, but needing to stay very careful about health?
Sure. So yeah, like Anna Maria mentioned, we also started offering masks from our factories. The idea was to contribute, so it's something that we didn't charge any commissions on. So we're just using the platform to provide direct access to the factories, so very low cost for these certified masks. We started with a couple of factories, but then the demand just grew and many other factories wanted to join, and so part of the community of factories wanted to contribute. And we ended up with a very significant assortment. We were surprised on one way how fast things moved and how fast the factories were able to react and change their lines and start doing masks in a significant scale. And how welcomed this was by our community of consumers and beyond, because we have a lot of consumers across Europe buying from the site. And opening up other opportunities, because the speed at which we are able to change the assortment and introduce new products into the line, 2-3 weeks sometimes, enabled us to also start working with other brands, even influencers and smaller brands, to help them with their sourcing platforms, and so using our skills to build B2B business on top of the existing B2C business. One of the brands actually is launching today, and they're advertising at Borussia Dortmund Bayern Munich game later on. It's called Mask, and specifically for masks, but we will be powering their backbone and their supply as a result of having tried to help and get involved with community. So I think a bit to the point that Raul was mentioning, if you have a clear idea and purpose of what you're doing and you follow that through, then other opportunities open up. And this one has been a tremendously significant opportunity for us. And it opened up the opportunity not just for this B2C business, but to build other verticals inside our marketplace that we'll be exploring, especially in homeware, in other areas where we have very good factories that we can put into the platform.
And when it comes to the assortment for big brands such as Mo Fashion, do you see that this health hazard situation could force brands to make changes in the assortment? So introducing new things. Before you were mentioning that you're already exploring materials that are antiviral, that are more durable and kind of protective. So how do you see that shifting?
I think there's a room for that. In a more generalistic brand, it's not going to be mainstream, at least not in the immediate term, but I think there's a room for that. And that's an important room to have, especially for the consumer, to gain confidence and get back to the economy. We need to give people more confidence that they can go out, that they can go shopping. These are all elements that, together with health, safety instructions, are part of making sure that we can return to some sort of normality. And our role as corporates and institutions is to make sure that we provide all the possible means for people to go on with their lives, because we cannot be in a lockdown forever. Here in Portugal, we just started 2 weeks ago moving out of lockdown, and there's still a huge fear between people of how dangerous is really the virus. You need to break that so that people within some safety can regain their normal lives, because that's something that we'll have to live with going forward. And so for fashion brands to offer some kind of element of protection, be it with antiviral lines, with many other things that other brands are doing, or masks, I think it's part of our responsibility to do it. I don't think it's going to be a mainstream line going forward, but it's an important element of the product assortment that you need to have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your view on that. And obviously, most likely we are going to be affected in the immediate months by this need going towards the vaccine, probably. I would now like to take, in a way, a step back from the current crisis and look into sustainability in general a little bit more. And very happy that Ana Maria is with us, because she has spent her entire career working in corporate responsibility arena. So Ana Maria, could you tell us a bit, now everybody's speaking about sustainability. It's been 2 years that it's on everyone's lips. And I think it's good that that's the case, but could you tell us a little bit how this topic evolved over time? So for the first time you stepped into your first role in sustainability until today.
Yeah, so as you said, I've been working in sustainability for 22 years now, so quite a long time. It was really my passion. I stumbled upon it many, many years ago with my first job at Nike, when the company started literally getting organized to deal with some of these issues from an environmental and social perspective as well. And at that time, people didn't really understand what this work was about, because there were only few global companies looking into these issues. And even internally, it was hard to explain what the role was about and why we were trying to do this, and why the company was dealing with this type of issues. So it's been a very interesting journey, because it took a long time for people to really understand what sustainability is, or corporate social responsibility, because it's very complex topics that we talk about, and because it's so broad. Very broad. It goes from environmental topics to social topics in supply chain, in local communities. You talk about how products can become more sustainable. So it's very, very complex. And it requires looking at the business and how you do things in a very different way. So adding that lens to how people are used to work took a long time. However, in the last, I would say, few years, the whole sustainability and corporate social responsibility work really picked up, and the level of, I would say, of intensity and of relevance of all these topics picked up very, very fast. So the change that I saw in the past 5 years, I think, is unprecedented. And I also agree it's great. On the other side, we don't really have much time to change things, because as we can see, also the impact that we have, not only as fashion brands or as textile sector, but broader in all of the industry, the change that we need to bring to the work we do and how we do things is also unprecedented because of the challenges that we see. The lack of resources is very clear. The overshoot day of the Earth comes earlier every year, which means that the overshoot day is the day in which we've used the resources of one Earth. So from that day on, then we start using the resources of a second Earth, which we don't have, by the way. So, you know, the challenges that we have are really incredibly big. And it's great to see that a lot more brands, stakeholders, organizations, consumers have started to really listen and take steps and make decisions in a different way to make sure that we address these issues. Again, you know, it's been a journey. It's taken a long time. The acceleration over the past few years has been incredible. I think this time of crisis has also brought some kind of time for many people to reflect on how we live and if the way we live really makes sense, right? Because of the challenges we're facing. So I think, and I hope that in the future, you know, coming out of the crisis, the way we behave and the way we make choices will change.
Yeah, hopefully. Could you tell us, just because you mentioned the overshoot day, could you tell us when it did, like around which month is it?
Yeah, so I remember last year was around the end of July.
Oh.
We would need to check this year when that is.
So we need 2 Earths, effectively.
Yeah, actually even more. yeah, definitely. It's quite shocking, you know, when you think about how we use resources. We always think that is, you know, we have infinite resources. Actually, that's not true. The resources are, you know, very limited right now. And again, we're using them at an unprecedented rate. So very, very fast. So we need to think about ways in which we slow that or we change the way we do things. That's also why circular economy and this whole way of thinking about reusing some of the resources and the products that we've already made, it's super important because there's so much embedded value in the products that we make that if you think about it's a total waste to actually dispose of them so quickly as we do nowadays. So circular economy is definitely one of the areas in which we're looking at the most because of these reasons.
Yeah, and luckily there is also a lot of innovation going on in circular economy, and there are many also both platforms but also solutions for brands that could just plug into their systems and kind of boost the way they're managing also that relationship with the customer and managing that part of the customer experience as well. So. And so there are going to be some interesting developments around there as well.
Yeah.
Tackling one part of of what Anna Maria was saying. So there is a big issue with resources. On the other hand, there is a very big issue with waste when it comes to sustainability. And Rajul, your company is effectively in a very successful way. Helping fashion companies reduce waste by planning better, effectively, which is very important in a fast business such as fashion that is very a very highly seasonal business. So how do you work with brands to help them manage their inventory planning? What do you advise to them? What tools do you deploy?
All right. Okay. So so I'll divide it into 2 parts. Yeah. One is the preventive action, the other is the corrective action. Yeah, and more the preventive action you take, lesser the corrective action you will have to take. Correct. Now, fundamentally, we have 2 different lines of products, technology products. Yeah? Our first product fundamentally helps merchandisers take extremely highly accurate decisions and very fast. Yeah. It includes all your pre-season decision making, or during the season decision making, things like plan, what should be your assortment mix, what should be your depth, what should be your size ratios, where to showcase which inventory, where, what to replenish, what to replace. Yeah? So, in India, most of these things are still done on Excel sheets, and whatever products which exist to do this, they're all driven by. They were all built for, let's say, automobile industry or a manufacturing industry or a FMCG industry, and have been tweaked to handle fashion. And fashion is a very different animal altogether. So our first product, which is Increff Iris, it's an analytics product. It has about 100 plus algorithms which are customizable according to brand's need. We have filed patents as well in India and US. And these algorithms, they go very granular, and they consume huge amount of raw data, and give results very accurate, very fast, and anytime. It has the capability to clean out noise data. So it automatically cleans out your liquidation sales. It automatically cleans out your broken size sale, and thus it predicts the true demand. Then we go very granular. We don't create clusters of stores. We analyze the DNA of every store separately, and whatever analytics comes out of it, then we aggregate at a region level or at a company level. These algorithms are in a lot of sense self-learning. They can learn from other stores within the same region. They can learn from previous season, and they continuously keep on learning from current season. And given that fashion, these things are very, very important. And in fashion, let's say 75-80% of your styles will change next season. So for those styles, we do an attribute level prediction. The attributes will remain same of the product. The designs may change. So you can study the previous season or the current season and predict better for the future season. Then, as I said, it's very fashion focused. So all the fashion nuances, like, freshness index, seasonality, festivity, recency, full price sell through versus end of season sell throughs. So it caters to all the fashion nuances. It automatically predicts what should be your never out of stock style. Within the fashion style, what should be your variety, what should the quantity you should buy, in what size ratios. Now I'll give you a very simple example, very easy to understand. Most of the fashion industry, at least this part of the world, works in a let's say integer size set ratios, 1, 2, 2, 1 across small, medium, large, etc. And these size ratios do not depict the true demand. And this size ratio can be different from a t-shirt to a let's say coat, from one store to another store. We are able to predict size ratios in granular percentages. That means lesser size cut, lesser discounts in future. And it also, so fundamentally what I'm trying to say is that the whole technology has been built in such a way that it will make you produce only what will get sold, and you need not produce extra, which generally get sort of wasted or discounted.
And what have been the results for some of the brands that use your platform? So do you have like the before and after scenarios of how much Increff actually helped them?
Yeah. So we have been able to reduce inventory by about 20%-ish. And we have been able to improve their margins by 4-5%. So there is a clear-cut, impact on your working capital sustainability by reducing the inventory. But at the same time, we have been able to achieve the real business objective, which is about more margins, more revenue, more absolute margin.
That is really impressive, Rajul.
So that's the sorry for my longer answer, but that's the, let's say, preventive action we are taking. Then there is a corrective action. So what we have built is another platform called Assure. Arguably today it's the world's most accurate warehouse management system and most simplest. I think now only robots can beat us in terms of accuracy of inventory within a bin in a warehouse. Yeah. But most importantly, we are able to showcase this inventory. Let's say if you have 1 million pieces in your warehouse, yeah, we are able to showcase these million pieces to all the sales channel. You know, for example, let's say these million pieces will be live on Amazon, will be live on eBay, will be live on Walmart, will be live on your own website, will be live to your own stores. Yeah, without keeping any buffer and without using 5-6 different layers of technology. A single layer of technology will do everything. Will manage the warehouse, will expose the inventory, and will fulfill orders of every variety. You know, e-commerce or marketplace or offline orders, etc., etc. Now it's like Uber. You know, it's a perfect Uberization. You know, when you see an Uber taxi, you can still see only what is within your 2 kilometers. Yeah. Now imagine if 100% inventory is showcased to every single possible customer and every single possible channel. That has a huge impact on inventory holding. You can dramatically bring it down. Your sell-throughs will increase. Your waste will reduce. Your discounting will reduce. Yeah. So that's our second product, Increff Assure.
So it increases much more the agility of what inventory management is. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I have worked in a fashion e-commerce before, and I do understand really the value of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Going slightly back to what we were discussing earlier about the importance of circular economy, but also sustainability within the fashion domain in general. Francisco, Springcoat puts a lot of focus on quality over trends, and it really comes across very nicely on your website. So you combine different concepts such as upcycling of luxury fabrics. On the other side, there is ethical craftsmanship, essential quality garments. So you actually, if we look at the sustainable development goals, you tick quite a few of them in a very coherent way. So could you tell us a little bit more how you structured your supply chain, and why did you decide effectively not to hold inventory, but to just act as an intermediary between the customers and the actual producers?
Sure. So working in a fashion company, I sometimes see some of the discussions and misalignments of incentives between factories that want to produce and hand over the stock and retailers that want to buy. And so the factory is trying to produce as cheap as possible. The retailer is also trying to buy as cheap as possible. And there's sometimes an effect that both of them end up working to a lower quality product, or to a product with less incorporated craftsmanship. By doing this the way that we're doing, and so placing the burden of the quality of the product in the factory, and in our platform all the returns are returned directly to the factory as well, we're making sure that the person that produces the goods is the foremost interested in making sure that they are sold, that they have a good fitting and they stay with the customer, and that they are not returned, and that they don't get bad reviews because of that on the website. So it's a model somewhat similar to what Alibaba does in general, because we're trying to help the stores or the factories in our site to sell, but it's their product, so they're deciding. We're doing some curating, of course, but they're the ones that decide how much they want to produce, when they want to produce, at what price they want to sell, and we're moving to them that responsibility and that sense of ownership over the product and the things that they do in that factory, because these tend to be very proud factories, are things that they're very happy about. And so we found that that was a way to increase the level of quality of the garments that were being sold. It is a way to remove a point of attrition in our partnership, because we're not discussing at the price, they're placing the price, we're charging a commission on those sales. And so we're having that responsibility, and we've found it to be a better way to do it. Because like you said, we're not against fashion. On the contrary, I mean, we like fashion and we like to see the trends. But when we go to our community, the things that we sell the best are actually essentials, quality essentials, much more than pure fashion. Doesn't mean that we cannot sell out a poncho or a jumpsuit, but in the core, I think people are looking for more stable products. They're looking to buy higher quality, and so they might pay maybe extra for that product, but they know they'll hang on to that product for a few years. And so they are willing to pay that premium for the product. And that product needs to be somewhat consensual so that it can last for a few seasons. And the best way to ensure that quality, or the way that we arrived at, is to put the burden on the factory for the quality that each factory is producing. And it's also based on that, on those reviews, that we assess our partnerships with the factories, and we decide which factories to retain and which factories to stop working with.
Yeah. And you mentioned quite a few important and quite strong trends of what the customers want, but also about the responsibility the producers are taking on and so on. So I'm just being aware of time, and as we start slowly to wrap up our discussion, Francisco, could you give us a view about how this crisis is impacting sustainability efforts so far, and how do we ensure, working in this industry, that it doesn't provide a setback to the efforts we have created so far?
Right. I think in the short term, we saw a couple of movements against sustainability. The most shocking for me were all these disposable medical devices and gloves and masks. And so there, I think fashion actually provides a solution by doing reusable items that are not thrown away and don't become a problem in a few months. But I think the underlying trend is there. It's going to go stronger. So I'm not too worried about a lack of focus on sustainability. I think we had a very short-term crisis. Because of the crisis, health of course comes first, and so people have to make other types of decisions. But the trend is there, the trend will remain strong, and so I'm very confident that people will value this even more. And fashion as an industry needs to step up and help solve problems and solutions that today are performed by plastics and other types of materials that could be done with textiles. So it's part of the role of the industry to find those opportunities, to offer that kind of products, and make sure that we put all the fashion technology that exists to a better use and to replace disposable products that exist in the marketplace today. So, but I'm pretty confident. I'm not too concerned about sustainability going away. Not at all.
It sounds as a positive challenge, actually.
Yeah. I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Francisco. Raju, from your side, how do you see it? So what is your view on the COVID-19 crisis versus the efforts on sustainability?
In fact, my view is COVID will have a very, very positive impact on sustainability. It might be a short-term setback, and that short-term setback is for everything in life during COVID, correct? Not only sustainability, but science, technology, data, businesses, etc., will solve sustainability problem on their own way. But one very interesting thing happened, and which Anna was also referring to. The whole human nature has to change. Towards consumption, and what you are consuming and why you are consuming. And this whole COVID scenario brought that question to everybody. There is a developed economy which is more, let's say, already looking at sustainability, and there is a developing economy which is yet to look at sustainability in that manner. But in a developing economy like India, I was very, very happy and surprised to see people becoming more conscious about sustainability, ecology, etc. during COVID time, and because of COVID. So I think this will have a very positive impact on changing human nature and behavior. I hope it doesn't last only for 6 months or a year. The impact, this change should be persistent and consistent across many years to come.
Thank you very much, Raju. Yeah, I think we have heard a lot of voices saying that the new normal is actually going to be something new, and we're not going back to the old ways. So this is in line with what you are saying. Anna Maria, I wanted to ask you for a final comment and final thoughts on the relationship between this crisis and the sustainability, and the ways that we could, as an industry, drive the sustainability agenda forward.
I think at least what I've seen so far is that the brands that are truly committed to sustainability are even more convinced and driven now to move forward and faster with the sustainability agenda. So that's really encouraging, because I think, as Francisco and Raju have said, indeed, this crisis actually untapped a huge opportunity that we have to become even more sustainable. And I think the fact that has been unprecedented as well. So hopefully, you know, this will keep going, and this positive movement will keep going and will keep growing. On the other side, I think that for instance, the brands that have not reached a level of maturity in sustainability have, again, a great opportunity to do it now, because the movement is there and the movement is not going to stop. And from what we've heard from a lot of consumer insights that were done in the past few weeks, is that also consumers will actually award the brands that throughout the crisis demonstrated a true, authentic attitude towards the environment, towards local communities, and that were authentic in their messages. And consumers, you know, understand if there is greenwashing or whether what you're doing is true and is real. So again, this is also to reinforce what we've just said up until today, that you know, the brands that have developed strong sustainability strategies, visions, and way of operating will be awarded by consumers, but also have become even stronger in their convictions of, you know, keep going, really, and keep doing things and keep improving the way we do things.
Yeah, as you said earlier, it's a journey. So
it's a journey. Yes.
Yeah. Well, wrapping up with that, I would like to thank you very much, all three of you, for your time and for your insights. I'm sure that our audience has found it interesting. I myself have learned quite a few things today, so I'm grateful for that. For all of you watching us, so we will be bringing discussions similar to this one to our LinkedIn page each week. So make sure you follow Loomish today, and have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.